Hey there, people of the internet. My name is Sivana, and welcome to my studio. So, first of all, I just have to say wow and thank you to everyone who got us to 500 subscribers and like 1,000 plus views on the last video. You guys must really like D&D, almost as much as I do. So I just wanted to continue with that thread and draw another member of Vinthara's group, the Druid of the Stars, Noelle Brightwing, who is the designated healer of the bunch. But the 500 subscriber special is coming soon, I promise. But now, let's just get into the drawing. So here is our lovely Noelle, an Owlin Druid of the Stars, played by Victor's cousin, Tamra. This is her first time playing D&D, but she used to be really big into World of Warcraft and always played a Druid, and who can blame her? Druid is the best class. I am biased. And she wanted to be something kind of small, like a little owl or a gnome, but she went with owl because flying is cool and way too OP, and I'm figuring out how to deal with that. Anyway, Owlins come from the Strixhaven book, which is also a set in Magic the Gathering, which is all about these different colleges. Owlins are a distant kin of the giant owls from the Feywild and come in many shapes and styles. So Noelle is a beautiful snowy owl from the Arctic. Specifically, this floating island in the corner called Thelderall. She was a librarian of the Norskin University right here on the peak, and she researched the auroras and what they had to do with the magical ley lines. As a druid, she was always fascinated by everything in nature, specifically the stars and heavenly bodies in the sky. She draws on the powers of the natural ley lines of plants and soil, but also from the stars of Nylenathir itself. Druidism is essentially a religion, though a very loose one, where they all worship Ninosk, the first element. Ninosk is the goddess and creator of nature and the lands in which everything lives on. So even if the druids don't specifically worship her the way normal religions worship their gods, the act of protecting and preserving nature is enough to be considered a disciple. So basically, if you're good enough to nature, Ninosk will give you nature powers and you become a druid. I have also made a couple of new schools of magic for this campaign, one of which I forgot to talk about in Vinthara's video. They are hemomancy or hemocraft, which is blood magic. I made a few original spells and found some others from various places on the internet, and the other new school of magic is astromancy, which is the star and space magics. Hemomancy spells can be learned by sorcerers, warlocks, wizards, and clerics of the blood domain, so very specific for Vinthara. And then astromancy spells can be learned by bards, clerics, sorcerers, wizards, and druids of the Circle of Stars, because obviously. Back to Owlins and a bit of lore for a sec. So if you saw my blood cleric video, you may remember how I said that these races, lineages, / species are put into culture groups to fit my world. Well, Owlins belong to the group called Haytrai, which also includes other bird folk like Aarakocra, Kenku, and Harpies, and no one really knows where they came from exactly. All the Fae species and races are kind of a mystery in this way, like with fairies, changelings, and goblins, and even gnomes. They all have the same vague Fae origin, but no one can agree on the exact origin. And this is curious because every other race has a clear creator. I should also note that, like with most D&D worlds, the gods here are all very real and present. Ninosk still lives on the mortal realm as a massive world tree, and Althea chills in her sky palace overseeing everything. And to talk about design a bit, I just had so much fun with Noelle, and I did not intend to make her so sexy. Like, I just put her in these robes to show off her bird legs, and accidentally made her really thick, and I like it. I intended to have some like feathery cleavage open, but with the shading and coloring she just looks like even sexier, so oops. I just make pretty people, I can't help it. But for real, I really enjoyed making these constellation magics and putting the like constellation patterns on her robes. She's just so pretty. Like the Druid of the Stars, Druid Circle of the Stars deals with constellations, so instead of wild shaping into an animal, you just turn yourself into a constellation. And Noelle uses the Archer constellation a lot because it has a really cool bonus action spell to just shoot like a shooting star type arrow. So she does that a lot, so I put the Archer constellation in her hand. And then another constellation is the Chalice, which is the healing one, so I kind of did a vague chalice shape above her head because she is the designated healer. Even though Vinthara is a cleric, he does not heal. I feel like I'm bouncing all over the place with this script because I just have so much I want to talk about. I can't keep track of one thing. Like, I was talking about owls, and then I was talking about the continents, and then I was talking about the gods. It's all connected, and it's hard for me to separate it. But let's go into her backstory now, and for this I am going to read what Tamra wrote for me. I trudged through the crunchy grass, chill wind blowing my ivory feathers all around, with sparkling snow falling and momentarily blinding my view. I feel like I'd been walking my whole life, although it had only been a few days. A few days since my entire world fell apart, at least the world I was used to. My comfortable routine of bustling around the library, sorting, cataloging, advising students, interspersed with exciting moments of discovery and magic, all gone. My profession that I had spent years building and seemingly endless hours reading and gazing at the stars, forfeit because of one bad decision. And now I'm here, on top of a small outcropping, in the middle of an unrelenting tundra, looking at the twinkling lights of the first town I've seen since I started out on my unexpected journey. This whole adventure is insane. I've never done anything like this before. Seldom one to do something unplanned. My current situation is the result of my distraught brain thinking, fuck it, why be safe and reasonable? It's too late for that now. The safe and reasonable part of my brain had checked out a week ago, when I had gotten the bad news. My grant, and more importantly, my access to the leyline grounds at the far northern area of Norskin University had not been renewed, effective immediately. Something about other, more relevant and applicable options, as if finding a way to harness the energy of the aurora to revitalize the barren plains of the northern tundra wasn't relevant. We could grow enough food to feed everyone easily. Trees could reach their leafy arms toward the stars, casting shade in the long summer sunshine. Our land would be beautiful and green. But because it has been 5 years, and myself and my team of researchers have not succeeded yet in our ambitious task, we were discarded. It doesn't matter that we were so close, likely just one more trial run away from success. With myself, a Druid of the Circle of the Stars, as the focal point, and a member of each of the other 6 circles, as anchor points, we would be able to funnel the raw power of the aurora to bring the sun's life-giving force to our dry and frigid lands. Desperation at the closeness of our triumph, and the unfairness of the short-sighted university board of scholars led me to my very bad decision. Just 2 days after my meeting was going to be one of the most active aurora excitations of the year, the decade actually. This would lead to a rare occurrence of a scarlet aurora, which only happens with a very energetic solar flare. This was going to be our breakthrough, the extra power we needed to make our ritual incantation work. And since we didn't have access to the leyline area any longer, we were going to miss our chance of a lifetime. In the end, I took responsibility for the actions of the 7 of us, sneaking onto the leyline grounds after midnight, casting charming spells on the sentries around the guard towers. I couldn't let my circle brothers and sisters lose their jobs and reputations for my desperate decision. I don't even regret it, really. If I had missed this chance to see my years of study and sacrifice had been worth it, I think I would have been even more miserable than I am now. And it worked. Our 7-point circle, never used before we thought to use all the Druid circles together, was the key, plus the powerful leyline intersection at Norskin and the rare Scarlet Aurora event. At the accumulation of our 30-minute-long incantation, I was filled with power like I've never felt before. The radiant sunlight and piercing starlight, and immutable moon's light running through every nerve and blood vessel in my body. Green grass exploded in a circle around us, starting at my feet and racing outwards, with tiny pale white wildflowers woven between the blades of grass. It was beautiful and terrifying and perfect. Of course, we were caught, almost immediately. I'm sure it was a pretty spectacular display that we were putting on, hardly able to go unnoticed. Not that I was very aware of time passing. The amount of power that had passed through me was immense, and I realized later, far too much for my mind and body to handle. To skip over the technical details, it almost burned out the source of my magical ability. Almost, but not quite. It also ended my employment at Norskin University. I had just enough power and wits about me to cast charm on my companions as the campus security was closing in on us. Their approach interrupted our spell, and the explosion of greenery faded away, unable to be sustained without us being able to finish our work. After all was said and done, I was able to convince the board and regents that I had coerced them to help me. The board knew little enough of our magic, with none of them being druids or even scholars themselves, to know the success of the Greater Circle would require full awareness and participation of all members. I was given 15 minutes to hurriedly grab anything I could from my office at the magnificent university library at the top of Skyreach Tower, with its powerful telescope, lovely floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and crystal-clear skylights to the heavens above. I gathered all the scrolls and little magical items I could fit into my pockets and satchel. I tried to memorize every nook and shelf and messy stack of papers I could, still disoriented from the rush of power I had experienced, and also now the very distressing lack of magical resources I had to draw upon, and also being unemployed. Despondent, I sulked in my small but neat rock cave home for a day or two, but I've never been much for moping. What to do now? I've pretty much ruined my life as I know it. I might as well do something crazy. It's the only thing that could get my mind off my current predicament. So I asked my niece, Viridia, a very capable, if somewhat down on her luck alchemist, if she would live at my place for the foreseeable future. Of course she agreed. She pretty much is moss serves as it is. And I leave. I leave Norskin. My little rock cave, my few friends, my lovely library, and my memory of a glowing scarlet aurora, with waves of green flowing from my feet. Now I just have my overstuffed satchel and my flickering druid power as I tromp through the tundra, just looking for something to give my life purpose again. So yeah, I love Tamara so much because she's amazing. This is her first time playing D&D and she went all out on the backstory and I'm so happy and proud of her. It's great. But yeah, after Noelle left the university, she decided to leave Thelderall altogether, which wasn't too hard for her with those big owl wings. She was able to fly down to the main continent of Adabast, and from there she heard rumors of the Void. Her insatiable curiosity set in and she booked passage to Caerleon, much in the same way Vinthara did. And just like Vinthara, as soon as she reached the continent, something happened, and she awoke in a cave with 2 others. Vinthara was new to her, but she had met and studied with Oramus once before back on Thelderall. The 3 of them then worked together to get out of the cave, making friends with a couple NPCs who let the group stay at their house until the next morning, and then they set off to speak with the Queen of the Continent and inform her of the Void's attacks. Driven mostly by curiosity, Noelle now sets out with these companions to stop the Void and protect the world, as she researches it all along the way. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my little story time of Noelle Brightwing, my lovely owl friend. I love her, she's so cute. I can't say that enough. And yeah, look forward to the next video being the 500 subscriber special where I'm doing a Pokemon D&D video. Be sure to give this video a like, leave a comment telling me what you liked about it or any D&D stories you have. Subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't already. And as always, take care and I'll see you in the next one.